I'm Anil. I'm the MD of SEG Automotive India Private Limited. And SEG Automotive is a technology leader worldwide in the field of starters, generators, and mild hybrids. We're also a leading player in the market, both globally and locally. We are a full liner catering to right from three-wheelers to heavy commercial vehicles. And in India, we're here for almost 3 decades now.
Okay. So could you just brief me about the current situation that auto industry is going through, and as your products are completely placed into EVs, and how do you see what exactly is happening in currently in the industry, and how will your product work in this particular scenario, and what strategies have you come up with to make it work or probably reach to your audiences in this
See,
situation?
Pushkar, I will just start with the background. It's an unprecedented situation that all of us are facing today. I would call it's a war for the sake of humanity. It's actually a different way of describing the present situation. And first
True.
of all, we need to thank the frontline soldiers who are fighting this out for us, particularly the healthcare workers and the doctors, in this unprecedented situation. And in war times, there is a saying, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Of course, there is a lot of warnings around, and it is time for us to be acting with our own unique ways to be forearmed to face the situation. This could be on the personal side, it could be on the family side, it could be for the society, it could be for the industry. So that's the broad outline what I would just like to start with. On the pandemic itself, all of us know it has crossed the 4 million mark, which is enormous across the globe. More than 280,000 lives are lost. It's across 187 countries today, and more than 4.5 million people are under social distancing regulations. So this, of course, has got a massive impact on the economy. But before we come to the economy, these are absolutely required in terms of the measures that are taken now in order to stop the spread of this deadly virus. While we recognize that this was mandatory, the implication is the global economy is hit very hard, the hardest since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Automotive industry is no exception to this. The worldwide automotive industry is heavily impacted with this virus. If you look at the numbers, we started the year at about a projected volumes of 90 million worldwide, and now it is falling to almost 68 million projected as we stand today. Maybe it's going to get worse, we don't know. So this is at the global level. India, of course, has been impacted heavily too. All of us know the sales of April is next to nothing. But of course, India took the right call coming into a lockdown quite early, because we were able to avoid the peaking, which otherwise could have gone exponential. Having said that, the lockdown has its implication on the Indian economy too. But the good news is, May beginning, at least the relaxation is on. We are able to resume our activities, of course, in a smaller way. But the clear focus, I would say, right now for us in the automotive industry and also the other industries like us, is the safety and the health of our employees and associates. This is the first and the most important thing when we restart our operations. Of course, we have our own guidelines published, and the government itself has issued a lot of safety precautions. And we have started off with this with one shift operation since the beginning of May 4th to be precise. And we are, of course, in SEG operating in 3 locations, that is Bangalore, Nagnatpura. We have 1 plant in Hassan and 1 in Chennai. So all these 3 plants have resumed with the one shift operations. The key challenges that we are facing today, of course, while taking care of the safety of the associates, which is paramount, is how do we ramp up our supply chain? Because one of the key aspects that affects all of us in the automotive industry is even if one component is missing, the car cannot be made. Similar situation for us in the component industry. All the suppliers need to be active and on. But in the current situation, because of such a dynamic situation that we are running through, some of them could be in the containment zones. Of course, if they're in the green and the orange zones, it's pretty clear that they will resume, and they have resumed. But those in the containment areas are still to start. But we have our de-risking with dual sourcing, so we are able to at least start off our ramp up to meet the customer demands for this month. But this needs to be watched how this demand generation goes on. For me, I would look at two things in the next weeks to come. One is how is the ramp up going to look like will depend upon the demand generation on one side and the control of the spread of the virus on the other side. The whole of automotive industry, of course, is looking at this. And one of the key factors that could positively influence the demand generation is some of the government initiatives. For example, the Scrappage Policy. If this is coming into picture pretty quickly, we have a good chance that it can lead to a faster revival. And of course, the GST cut is another one. And the third one is how will the liquidity of the country look in order to enable higher demand generation. While the COVID will have its implications of creating a new normal, because when we are now back into operations, the situation is no longer the same when we lock down. So we can call that we are entering the age of the new normal. It is just not for the automotive industry, but this is for the entire society. It is more of virtual. It's more of using the digital platforms. It's more of no touch or low touch. So this has its implications on all parts of the society. It could be our daily transaction, where you will see that we are eliminating almost cash now, everything is digital. It is in our business transactions. The work from home is becoming the new normal. And maybe in the future, when normalcy comes back also, this could leave a long-lasting impact on how we're going to work in the future. Manufacturing, of course, requires people to come into the organizations to work and add value. But then there is a different SOP, standard operating procedure. The way they worked before and the way they work now will be different. The standardized ways would change so that the social distancing is maintained and we try to keep it as low touch as possible. This means new standards are to be evolved in manufacturing. So that is also going to be the new normal of the future to which the associates will have to get used to. The third one, even mobility would change. We are seeing that mass mobility is no longer going to be there, at least for some time till the virus solution is found. The personal mobility is gaining prominence. It could be in the form of small vehicles, it could be two-wheelers or whatever it is, but we need to see how it pans out. And of course, the entertainment area is totally different and people cannot go into the cinema halls. I would rather look at home entertainment. So this brings into a totally different new normal to which we will have to get used to. So in short, I would just like to end this question by one statement. Our focus in the short term is safety and health of the associates. The second one is to have a smooth ramp up through our value chain. And the third one, very important, is to focus on liquidity, which is very, very crucial because when you close down businesses for a month, you will have to conserve cash, you will have to control cost by various means. And finally, we will have to adapt to the changing requirements and adopt to the new normal I just now defined.
So as you also mentioned that the digital will come into play with this situation. So do you also think that the supply chain would also move to a digital platform, and from the offline versions would convert towards the online systems, and the connections would be faster, the order placing would be faster, everything will this give a speed to the current business scenario, not currently, but before COVID, how it was, and then would it increase the speed of the business, or the speed of passing products through supply chain?
Yeah, Pushkar, I strongly believe that every adversity has an opportunity. The digitalization was already coming in a big way if you look in the 2018 and 19s. But now the pace of digitalization is going to significantly increase. And it is for the good of the society. So as you rightly said, the order placing, the EDA as we call, will all go virtual. There's no need for the transaction by papers anymore. So it can become paperless. It can become really fast and seamless. The poker case can be built into the system where mistake proofing can be taken care so that there is less of mistakes happening. So this is an opportunity for us to relook and make systems more efficient. The only thing, as I mentioned, is the real value add on the product cannot change. But the way it is going to be produced will change, but the rest of the peripherals, be it the office work or be it the transactions, would certainly turn digital.
So now looking at the scenario of COVID, post COVID-19 situation, do you think that India has a good leverage point when China would be absent in the export market? Not completely, may not be completely absent, but it would resume slowly into the global exports. But do Indian players have a top priority in getting more and more export markets in this particular situation? Can they harness
I,
that fall in
I would split this
demand
into
gap?
two parts. First one is
Hmm.
India is a country of 1.2 billion people. So our domestic market itself is extremely strong. And India, as we all know, in the next 5 to 10 years, will have the highest population of middle class and a workforce that is employable. So this is, of course, pre-COVID also, which will be valid post-COVID in terms of the market. So we have a huge domestic market, and Make in India being one of the initiatives that everyone is driving, there is a lot of scope for the industry to catch on to this. This is on the domestic side. Second one, with COVID has exposed a lot of supply chain issues where companies used to import a lot of sub-assemblies or components or subparts, be it Europe, be it China, or be it elsewhere in the world. Now there is a unique chance to localize this even more. So this is an immediate chance that India has to improve the localization content and start manufacturing in a bigger way. By doing so, it generates the economy of scales. And it is very clear the economy of scales gives the cost advantage. So a strong domestic market with strong localization gives us the competitive edge in order to become competitive worldwide. So it's a step-by-step process. And India is actually well on its journey towards this, where it can be a hub for a lot of competitive products to be exported.
So in terms of like you mentioned that your plant is working, and how what exactly have you observed after the plant resumed its operations? Like in terms of operations, like what were the challenges when it comes to offering safety to the workforce, or who are on the floor? So what challenges did you encounter?
Yeah. So this actually, I should congratulate our very passionate and committed teams that were working relentlessly during the lockdown period from their houses or from their connections, internet connections, because we formed 9 different cross-functional teams, which is called as the crisis management teams. on 9 various topics. And one of these teams was concerning the safety, health, and infrastructure. This team, along with the operational team, put their heads together to come into a very clear planning stage of what should be done, including the micromanaging of the parts, starting from the time at which an employee leaves his house, goes to the pickup point, the way the bus is going to be organized, the way the seating in the bus is going to be, how the sanitization is going to happen, and how they're going to get down in the office and get into the plant, what precautions need to be taken, what gates of safety they will have to enter, and what safety PPEs they have to use. All these were meticulously planned well before we resumed operation on May 4th. And a trial run was made the previous day to ensure that we don't miss a single point. Frankly speaking, we had the most seamless restart of operations on May 4th when we started to produce without losing any time. And in fact, the associates were pleasantly surprised at the preparations done, and they were also given clear instructions prior to coming into the organization what needs to be done to restart operations. And when they came into the plant, of course, they were explained the new SOP, the standard operating procedures, which they needed to follow in order to have their own safety and ensure the safety of their colleagues. So I would say it was a seamless start. What are the challenges? The challenges, of course, when you are well prepared, the challenges become lesser. But of course, we had challenges because we had to continuously monitor who is coming from which part of the city. Because some of the cities were red zones, some were orange. So we took enough precautions to ensure that whichever was not allowed, we used the digital platform again to communicate and ensure that we have the right people coming in, because we had to work on one shift. And as I said, it went quite seamless in all the 3 plants.
So in terms of current operations, could you just give me a rough estimate about how much production is happening currently compared to the normal rate of production?
Yeah, this by design, Pushkar, we are allowing only 1/3 of our workforce to operate. I'm talking about the direct labor, because this is also the stipulation of the government. So our customers are also operating at 1/3 the capacity, and the suppliers too. So we are also in the same supply chain. So currently we are somewhere around 30 to 40% of the production levels. And we work based on the customer pull, because we don't want to build inventories, which today, as I mentioned, is one of the key focus for conserving cash and controlling cost. So based on the customer pull, we are going ahead. And as you are already aware, we have good export business with us. And if I look at the exports today, Europe is hit quite hard, and Americas also. But the recovery has already started in the industry in Japan, in Korea, and in ASEAN. So the pull from these countries are still quite good. So we are catering to the export markets, and we are catering to the local domestic customers. So this is our first target, that we ensure that we are not bottlenecks to our customers.
So in terms of meeting demands for your customers, what special initiatives have been taken by SEG to meet them? Because reaching out to customer could be difficult as of now, or getting their requirements as well.
Yeah, of course, it's a challenge, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, we are well connected, be it the export customer or the domestic customer, because we are, of course, leading the market in this business of starters, generators. So we are well connected to our customers, and they've already given us the tentative schedules, because they are also in the process of ramp up. And they need also to be clear that their supply chain is all green. And they have given us those tentative schedules for which we are planning ourselves. And as I said, we do not want to be the bottleneck, so we will not allow that to happen. So we take those schedules from the customers and prepare ourselves to be ready.
So also taking you back to this question again, like yeah, you had mentioned initially that you have been working for localizing your product, like when we have spoken earlier as well. You mentioned this point as one of your common targets, like you try to source as much as you can from the local domestic market. So in such a situation when you supply chains are affected, how is SEG looking at this opportunity? Like how is it looking to source components in India to manufacture, because you have been sourcing some key components from your other manufacturing facilities based outside India.
Yeah, Pushkar, I think probably also in our previous interactions, I've mentioned to you that localization is one of our key focus areas in the last years too. This has only speeded up the localization is what I can mention right now. And we have significantly looked at localizing the components to de-risk ourselves, be it the sources in Europe or from China. So we're able to have the local based setup. We were already in the process of validation and we expedited these validations. And thanks to our customers, they have also allowed us a quick release, because normally it would take a longer time, but looking at the contingency in which we are right now, we got good support from our customers to double release these sources. And today we are already done quite a bit of significant work in the last weeks on this topic. And in fact, this started before the lockdown itself, when the China source was already affected in the month of February. So the process started in February, but we are already at a good level today in the month of May.
So coming to my last question, like have you altered any of your plans which you had probably seen in coming in the next year, or probably this year's end? So have you made some changes to those, or are you still on your path?
See, last time also when we met, I had mentioned to you that we are strongly entering the light electromobility area. That is the two-wheelers and the three-wheeler segment on electrification, along with our core business of starters and generators and hybrids. So we used this opportunity during the lockdown in order to go deeper into our products that is already in SOP and that will come into SOP in the next months. And we were able to do a lot of simulation work in order to better it even further. So actually, as I mentioned in the beginning, this adversity gave us an opportunity to relook, because we would never had this time premium as what we have today. So we're able to look more deeper into the products, and when we are restarting now, we are implementing those ideas into the products. So in short, it would not change our plans for the next years in terms of penetration into the light electromobility. But I can tell you, of course, the next months we will watch out, because we need to see how this pandemic is going to emerge in the next months. And as a lot of predictions say, there could be a V recovery, there could be a U recovery, there could be a Nike swipe recovery. It can be so many different scenarios. We need to see how this pans out to see the demand generation as it happens. That is crucial. But as far as the roadmap of our product is concerned, we are doing even better than before by being more efficient.
So, just one last thing which I want to ask: is there any way that this time could help to attract people more towards electric mobility, or as you mentioned, light electric mobility?
Yeah, Pushkar, this question is, of course, there is no perfect answer to this, but there are different scenarios, and I would just like to share with you some of the thoughts. Electrification is for sure a thing that will come, and the COVID lockdown has shown what does it mean in terms of the environment when no ICE is on the road. So we're able to see absolutely greener environments. So this will be the motivator for electrification to come in a stronger way in the future. Of course, ICE will remain because we firmly believe the coexistence of technologies. But electrification in the medium long term will certainly be in place. And in our view, with the rural economy being given focus, we would also find electrification penetration into the rural areas more than before. Earlier, we used to speak of the last mile connectivity of the mass communication, of the mass transportation in the cities. Now, with this reverse migration happening into the rural areas and agricultural produce being in focus, and perhaps a good monsoon that is coming up, the pull of electrification from the rural areas would also significantly improve. So in that way, it's an opportunity for electrification to penetrate even more than before, but of course, time will tell how this pans out.
Okay, so thanks a lot for your time that you have shared so many of answered our so many questions, and hope to connect with you again in future as well. And also would like to see you as well as on the video interview as well as on the webinars as well.
Sure. Thank you, Puskar, and thanks for the time that we spent together. Thank you.